Wesley Brownlee, known as the Stockton Serial Killer, has now been charged with 7 murders and 1 attempted murder. The murders have been linked by ballistics. Hey everybody, welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going and going, you know.
Right? We're early in January of 2023, right at the beginning of our 4th season here.
Really trying to hit the ground running.
Yes,
really
absolutely.
trying.
It's kind of hard not to when you see how much is going on in the world right now. It's a lot.
It was almost weird to be on break. It was weird to be on break and see crime things happening and be like, we should be talking about this.
Yes.
Yeah. We're missing a beat. Yeah.
Did some shorts on some of
Yes.
them. And so that's one reason why we're doing shorts, is to help us to stay caught up, because people are always like, well, what about this case? Or what about, and we're like, holy crap, there are not enough hours in the day, not enough episodes in a week to cover everything.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is our Tuesday episode, and I know, Katie, you are just itching to kick us off with some WTF news.
So I do want to give you a trigger warning that this case does deal with injury to an animal.
Ooh.
And we typically, a lot of times, don't cover animal abuse episodes or cases because they are so wildly upsetting. But this one does have a happy ending, so I decided I was going to go ahead and cover it. But trigger warning, this is, it does deal with an injured animal. So I'm going to show you a quick picture here. Oh gosh, I thought I was. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Yes. Also, not just an injured animal, but an injured Chihuahua. And if you know us at all, our family, we have fleets of Chihuahuas in all of our homes. And I have a little guy that looks quite a lot like this poor old dude.
You sure do.
So this happened last Monday. A 15-year-old girl was walking down the street in Chicago, walking her dog. He is 12 years old. His name is Bebe, or Bibi. And she was walking down the street with her dog when this insane lady comes running at her. This is Jeanette Oliva. Running at her, stabbing her dog.
What?
With a knife.
Oh my God.
Stabbing him.
Oh.
And this girl, who is not to be trifled with, punched her in the face, and once she got her down on the ground, kicked her good, and grabbed her dog and ran into the house.
Good.
And was able to get veterinary care for him. Thank goodness the teenager was not stabbed, just the dog. Like, what the hell?
The hell, yeah.
Yeah.
And this tiny Chihuahua, like, what could he have possibly done?
Right? He's a teeny guy. Yeah. So neighbors saw this happening, heard the screams, and came out and helped subdue her until the police got there. And of course, they did get BB to the vet, and he has had to have extensive surgery, but he is going to be okay. It missed most of his major organs, the stabbings. His diaphragm was damaged, so he did have to have surgery. He's 12.
Yeah.
He's an old dude.
Yeah.
So a police officer, a Chicago police officer, recognized that this was going to be a real hardship on this family. These veterinary bills were immense.
Oh, man.
And, you know, when there's other kinds of crimes, like the Crime Victims Fund will step in and help and stuff. But I don't know if they will for an injured animal. I'm not really sure how that works. But he felt like this was going to be extensive and a really hard thing for this family to bear. So he reached out to a rescue that he knew in town, and they partnered. This is the Garrett O. Stray Rescue Foundation,
Oh,
and they partnered with the police as well as with another rescue, and they crowdfunded and managed to raise enough money to pay for all of BB's surgical care.
oh, wow. That's
Yep,
amazing.
yep. They posted on Facebook on Wednesday, "We did it together. We saved BB. At the end, one person committed an unforgivable crime, but you all stepped up to help. Incredibly amazing and heartwarming, turning this horrific experience into something positive."
It is good to remember that there are way more good people than bad in this world. It doesn't always
Hmm.
feel that way, but that really is the truth.
Yeah, so BB is home and resting comfy and in the arms of his family, and his poor sister is very traumatized by what happened.
My
Um,
God.
but she's going to be okay, and I hope she takes a lot of peace in the fact that she fought back.
I hope so too. Good for her for punching that woman in the face. Any word on motive or criminal charges against this lunatic?
Oh, yeah, she's got a slew of charges, but I have more on her as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, the charges, let's see, let me get back to it. The charges were felony aggravated cruelty to animals and a misdemeanor count of aggravated assault with use of a deadly weapon.
Hmm.
Because while she did attack the dog, she was still attacking the human as well that had the
Right.
dog on a leash. I mean, that has to come into play.
For
Uh,
sure.
she had a $25,000 bond set, but in researching this case, her name came up in a different article.
Hmm.
A year ago, in December, so like almost 12 months to the nose,
Mm-hmm.
she was in trouble in Nashville. Same lady, for walking into Tequila's Mexican restaurant and acting weird. And a manager walked over to her and she said, "I have a bomb under my jacket and I'm going to kill everyone in the restaurant."
Oh my God.
Hmm. Yep.
Hmm.
Some customers heard that and fled the restaurant, of course.
Right.
And the bomb squad and police got there, and it turned out there was no bomb whatsoever. So she's
Mm.
a long-term problematic individual, obviously, but hopefully
Sounds like it.
are enough to put her behind bars for a while because she should not be loose on the community any longer.
No, or in a hospital getting treatment.
Yes.
Something.
Hmm.
Something is not right with her, but that does not mean that she has the right to go around behaving like this and hurting people.
No,
That's terrible. God, how
absolutely.
terrifying to be the manager of this restaurant. Oh,
Yeah.
yikes. Well, I'm
Metaphorically, a
glad that
15-year-old
BB's
walking.
okay
Yes, thank goodness BB's okay. And he's
and
gonna,
that his sister is okay too, but I really feel for her. That's got to
yeah,
really, that's some major trauma.
yeah. How terrifying. Yep. So there you have it. That's our WTF.
Wow. All right.
Well, I'm
Well,
going to kick the mic back over to you for our main case.
all right. Our main case today is an update in the Wesley Brownlee situation. Wesley Brownlee, you may remember, because we have reported on him before, is the alleged Stockton serial killer.
Hmm.
He was arrested a few months ago, excuse me, and charged with 3 murders and an attempted murder.
Yeah.
Well, that has now risen to 7 murders
Hmm.
in San Joaquin County and Alameda County in California. So Stockton and Oakland are where all of these murders have occurred. And we had wondered then when he was arrested,
Hmm.
were they going to be able to connect some more deaths to him? And unfortunately,
Right.
yes, quite
Yeah.
a lot. So we do know now that he was using a ghost gun and that these murders have
Mhm.
been connected by ballistics.
Yeah.
They have also, though, been connected by his cell phone data, his GPS cell phone pings actually put him in the locations of these murders at the times of the murders as well. So
Hmm.
they have quite a bit on him now.
Hmm.
We have learned a few things about him. because when this first happened, everybody was like, holy shit, who is this guy? What's been going on with this man,
Mm-hmm.
And so a few things we know about him. He grew up in Oakland, California, and he in May of 1994, he was arrested along with a couple of other boys for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl.
Oh.
I don't know what the outcome of that case was. That's a juvenile case, so we won't
Okay.
know. He had always claimed innocence and blamed his friends, but that was in interviews with a juvenile probation officer because he did end up on probation.
Mm-hmm.
In 1995, when he was 16, his brother Dale, who was 17 at the time, was shot and killed during what was called a drug-related shooting, and that was never solved.
Okay.
6 months prior to that, Wesley's close friend, Kogo Upshaw, who was 18 at the time, was also stabbed to death in the same area.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Also in what was considered a drug-related crime. Neither of those crimes ever were solved. And it does appear that things really went downhill for Wesley after his brother's death. In 97, when he was 18, he was arrested for possessing crack cocaine. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation, but then ended up in prison for a while because he violated his probation. He's been in prison several times for selling crack.
Okay.
He's also had some other infractions, and he's had a DUI. But it sounds like he really struggled a lot. Interestingly, he was the places where he was caught with selling crack cocaine, basically in the same place where his brother was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's kind of repeating a pattern that has occurred in his family. There's still very little known about his motive or why he's done the things that he's done. He's really not talking at all, which is kind of strange for a serial killer. They usually, like to toot their own horns quite a lot. He is not doing that. They don't know anything about his motive. 5 of his victims were Hispanic. We don't know if that was related. At this point, he's not saying that it was.
Right. The pattern is kind of patternless, right? I mean,
well, the only
race,
pattern is that they were all experiencing homelessness at the time that they were killed.
Okay.
And the woman that he shot also was experiencing homelessness. She just stepped out of her tent. He was standing right there, and he shot her several times. She managed to get away and survived.
Yeah.
But the pattern really is that he was prowling the streets at night, attacking people when they were alone in poorly lit places.
God, there was a case like this not that long ago out of Washington, D.C. and New York City.
Yes.
One person that, was traveling between the two, but
right.
The prowling on the homeless is just
it's awful.
So unthinkable. I mean, it all is, but the most vulnerable people in our society.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very unsettling. When people who are so very vulnerable are also, being targeted like this. When the police caught him, we still don't know how the police found him. We know there was a tip of some sort that got the police interested in him, then surveilling him, and were following him at the time that they arrested him, and they believed that he was out looking for his next victim and that they prevented another death when they arrested him. But there's a lot we still don't know. I mean, it's very strange because he's not talking at all. Usually by now you've learned a few things, and we've learned a little bit about his background and a little bit about his family, but there's nothing yet about his motivation. But he's up now to 7 murders. There were murders in Chicago that were similar MO, and that's one thing that authorities have been looking into and actually working with authorities in Chicago. They have now ruled him out on those murders. So, but we don't know. He was working as an over-the-road trucker for a while before he was arrested. Super scary because we know that that's believed to be the number one occupation of serial killers is long-haul truckers.
That's exactly why I wondered if that's why he's not talking.
Because
they're nowhere near done.
Because there are other states with other cases. Yeah. I think that's quite possible. So he is charged now in 7 murders. It's in 2 different counties, although I think San Joaquin County is kind of leading because most of his charges are from the Stockton area. But all of them, include owning a ghost gun and using that gun. There are enhancements for there being multiple murders.
Sure.
There's a lot. The charging paperwork is 11 pages long. I'm not going to read it because it's very repetitive and it's all the same stuff. But he's got 7 first-degree murder and 1 attempted murder charges against him now, plus the firearms charges.
Yeah.
So we shall see. I mean, I don't know when this will really go to trial because
it's going to be a minute. Yeah.
Are they still looking? They may be still
I'll
looking.
bet they are. Yeah.
To determine, are there more cases? And I remember when we first covered this that we had said we really think
there'll be more.
That there's going to be more. His arraignment on these new charges is actually on the 3rd, on Tuesday, so that's coming up. And I don't know, it's just very strange. There's so many questions. He was deemed to have a developmental disability, a learning disability when he was a kid. When things started getting bad for him, his mom tried to get him help. She got him into counseling, and she tried, especially after his brother died. She made some attempts to help him because she recognized that things were not good for him.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously that wasn't
enough.
But
here we are. Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
But it does make me wonder, because his brother's murder and his friend's murder were never solved. We don't know anything really around those situations. Does that have something to do with who he was shooting? Or is this generally just a, random, I come across somebody who's alone in the dark kind of situation? It kind of just seems like that it's just, he doesn't really care who it is as long as it's somebody. Just really unfortunate.
Sure seems like it. Wow.
And,
really sad.
Yeah. Obviously the community in Stockton and there in Oakland both are kind of reeling at this point that a serial killer has been functioning in their community for this long.
Yeah.
And, do we even know yet if this is all of them? So we'll continue to update as more things come out. I still am very curious to hear what he has to say, but it sounds like he's got nothing to say at this point.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's where we stand with Wesley Brownlee, and we'll keep updating as we go along. He has court on this week, and he will, continue to have more. And as his trial comes up, we'll report on that as well.
Yep.
This is an important one to just be aware of, and also to always remember over-the-road truckers. And not that all over-the-road truckers are serial killers. They're not.
Of course not. But historically...
The anonymity of it is scary. And, the intention to remain anonymous using a ghost gun is one of those ways that people, can remain anonymous for a long time when they don't
in a world where it's gotten a lot harder to be anonymous.
It has, and he's managed to stay off the radar for quite a while.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Katie, I know you have a little bit of breaking news for us.
Yeah. A while ago, we brought a few reports to you guys about the struggles going on with the Idaho Department of Justice surrounding enacting the death penalty.
Yes.
We actually talked about multiple states and their challenges. We talked about Oklahoma. We've talked about others. Well, And we also talked about the fact that Lori Vallow's team is prepared to argue the constitutionality of the death penalty, not just in
Yeah.
relation to Lori, but in relation to anybody, because
Hmm.
the death penalty is no longer being carried out in the way that the Constitution had intended. All of that being said, yet another conversation about the death penalty has come up in another state that I felt like was really interesting. I think these are really important conversations to have.
Hmm.
So I wanted to share this. This is an article that came out from off the AP. The title grabbed me. Report shines new light on execution secrecy in Tennessee. Ooh,
Mm.
well, that sounds like the execution secrecy in Idaho,
Sure
and the
does.
illegal and questionable things that were happening in Idaho in order to get a hold of death penalty drugs, right? Because
Yes.
here's what we know, a lot of drug manufacturers have said, no, we aren't selling you our drugs to put people to death. We are in the
Right.
business of healing and helping, not in the business of putting people to death. We don't want it. So it's made it really, really hard for states who use injection, lethal injection, as a way to
Hmm.
execute, to carry out injection or executions. Now, interestingly, Tennessee also still has the uh, electric chair, which is
Really?
interesting because most states don't anymore. Nearly all states in the union anymore are just lethal injection, but
Right.
now are kind of looking at what else do we do, because we can't do that. And some states have said we're not doing it. Like California, their governor Gavin Newsom said we are not executing anybody. This is wrong, and we don't. If we have to go to these means, that's a good sign there's something up, right?
Right.
So in Tennessee, of course, they had a hard time getting a hold of drugs.
Hmm.
And there's been some sketchy stuff go on that prompted the governor to order a big report. He wanted a big study on what's going on with the justice system in regards to the death penalty. Now, he had already issued a stay over COVID that should have started to, come off now.
Hmm.
But he asked for a pause and a study because some things seem to not be right. This is Governor Lee.
Hmm.
So here's what some of the things they discovered that have triggered some real red flags. First of all, they found in this report, they of course were uncovered a lot of emails and text messages. And one of the text messages was a conversation between a couple of prison officials discussing the possibility of obtaining their drugs from a veterinarian.
Oh,
Hmm.
that is not legal.
No, and it's really concerning because these are human beings, they're not animals. And it doesn't follow any kind of protocol to purchase
No.
medication from veterinarians to be used on human beings, whether they're sentenced to the death penalty or not.
Hmm.
Uh, this was the text. What are your thoughts on acquiring it through a veterinarian? They sometimes have better access to it since it's widely used for euthanasia in animals. The employee responded, how would that even work? And the first official responded, they buy the stuff by the case. Hmm, okay. Eventually, they scrapped that plan because they decided that it might not be logistically sound. Okay.
Or even, I don't know, legal?
Hmm.
Hello?
Yeah. So they put a single employee in charge of procuring the drugs who has no medical background whatsoever, which also violates the state's lethal injection rules. And yet that's what has been done.
What the hell, man?
They also have required tests for drugs. When a drug is procured, before it can be used, it has to be tested. Like if you have a bottle of phenobarbital, it has to be tested before it can be used on a person.
Sure.
Well, that didn't happen for 7 executions.
Oh, God.
Basically, kind of alluding to the fact that the employee that was in charge of these things didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Right.
So none of those things did not happen, which is obviously problematic. And so the state protocols just aren't being followed. Also, the state has failed to have any kind of a protocol in drug storage. So drugs that maybe perhaps need to be stored frozen or,
Mhm.
in a certain environment have not been. And
Mhm.
they can't verify that what they're doing is going to be humane. And again, constitutionally, regardless of a crime someone has committed, the we do not subject prisoners to cruel and unusual punishment, even in
Supposedly.
right, even in performing an execution. And so they've been violating all of their own rules, also the Constitution, right and left, because their protocols, even the ones that were in place, haven't really been followed.
Yeah.
So now the governor has had this stay in place because he has felt like this was not okay. So it's about to expire, and now they're trying to decide what to do
Mhm.
because they really still haven't fixed their problems. So in the next month or so, we should see whether he decides to put another stay in place or just, go the Newsom route and hold off uh, executions in general. We don't know, but Tennessee has a big problem on their hands.
It's
One
like
thing that
everybody. It's terrible.
yeah, one thing that the text exchanges showed was that when they were trying to execute a man named Donnie Johnson in 2019,
Mhm.
they did not have the drugs needed until the day before his execution, and the state spent $1,000 for an overnight shipment of one of the sedatives that they needed.
Mm.
So they were carrying forward with
N knowing they
execution,
didn't have.
yep, that they were unprepared for and weren't knew they wouldn't have that drug in time to do the required testing on it before it was used, and yet they
Mm.
were just marching forward anyway.
Do you think this is just a message that we just need to quit executing people? I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
seems like a no-brainer to me anyway, but holy
Mhm.
shit, you know?
They also had considered trying to buy drugs internationally since they're so hard to get in the US,
Ugh.
uh, and eventually scuttled that plan too. But again, they don't have good protocol in place, and the ones that they have in place, they're not following anyway. And
Wow.
so it constitutionally, they're not following the law at all, and they've opened
No.
themselves up to be sued like crazy for
Mhm.
executions that they have done that may or may not have gone awry because they haven't followed the law.
Right.
And that's basically it's part of the argument from Lori Vallow's attorneys coming up, we believe, is that the laws aren't being followed, the laws isn't clear enough, and
Mhm.
what's happening here isn't the letter of the law anyway. So anyway, I just felt like this was an interesting, and I'll link this in our show notes so that you guys can read the rest of it. But the other problem with it is that what they have determined now is a three-drug system. Midazolam is the thing that they give the inmate first. Midazolam is something that you get a lot of times before you have surgery when they, start trying to calm you down and slow you down as they're heading into the operating room with you.
Right.
And in their own admission, the pharmacist they purchased it from said, this will not be enough to prevent an inmate from feeling, the other drugs entering their body. This wouldn't be enough to stave off pain and things like that. And they went, huh, yeah, good enough, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So that's another part
Golly.
of the problem is that med, while they are able to get it, isn't really uh, isn't really sound for what they're doing. So anyway, there's just a lot of
And
issues here, and
I mean, it's like this is not a doctor making these decisions.
Right. Right.
Like, that's just terrifying, man.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Not that any of it is okay, but my God, you know, I mean, that's like with Gerald Pizzuto here in
Mm-hmm.
Idaho, where he's got to stay again because,
Mm-hmm.
oh, here's a surprise, Idaho doesn't have any drugs. You know, that just keeps happening. But for him, the drug cocktail that Idaho uses will be very painful for him because of some medical conditions of his.
Yeah.
I mean, when are we going to get it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When?
Yeah.
Well, Utah is bringing back the firing squad.
Oh, yeah, because
Because,
that's not cruel and unusual. I mean,
right.
come on.
Yeah, but they're bringing back the firing squad because they can't get medication.
Well, Gerald Pizzuto wanted it too.
But
He
yeah, but
asked.
Idaho did. We got rid of the firing squad in 2016.
I know we still had it clear to that point. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah,
I,
but he was wondering, like, can we just do that because this other thing's going to be super painful?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jesus.
Interesting. So I think these conversations about the death penalty are really important. I think if we're going to be a country that has the death penalty, that we also have to be educated enough and brave enough to have these conversations and to look the
Yeah,
process in the eye. So that's why we keep bringing these conversations to you.
definitely. Well,
So
and
there
that,
you go. Tennessee needs to clean it up.
yeah, well, in every state, you need to look at what your state's doing. If you are a
Hmm.
death penalty state, what is going on? Because I'll bet you
Hmm.
$100 it's shady bullshit.
Hmm.
Because that's what's going on everywhere.
Everywhere. Yep.
And so many botched executions and just
Hmm.
unbelievably horrible things have happened in the last few years.
Yeah.
Oh, it is time for some major change.
Indeed. It is.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, this is our Tuesday episode. We will be back on Wednesday with another great episode. There's so much going on right now. We have so
Hmm.
much to share. And then we'll be back Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain for our weekly case updates live stream. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. Check us out on Patreon. We do put out 2 bonus episodes a month for
Hmm.
our patrons. And also, you know, we've had several people ask us recently, how do they tip us? How do you support us? Thank us for the work that we've done? Because if you didn't know it, we put out more content last year than 99% of other true crime podcasters.
We did.
Spotify shared that with us.
Hmm.
But check
Yeah.
out our website, truecrimesquad.com. There's a couple of different ways to send us a tip if you want to. We do appreciate it. You know,
Hmm.
we put a lot of hard work and time into this show. We love it, but we certainly appreciate your support as well.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know it. We are the True Crime Squad. Thanks for being here.
Take care.